We're joined now by Husker Online Sean Callahan. Sean, good morning. We were kind of looking at the three quarterbacks who left and where they went to. Does that tell you anything about the level of talent that was at Nebraska, considering where they ended up at, Sean?
None of those guys were, they had much of a body of work other than Casey Thompson.
Sure, right.
That was going to just garner a May phone call. Now, Logan Smothers had, 15, 20 Power 5 teams that reached out to him and wanted him to come in, but he was very particular in what he was looking for. He wanted to be closer to his parents, so they didn't have to drive 16 hours every Saturday to watch him play. And he wanted to obviously find a good opportunity. And Jacksonville State makes a lot of sense. It's in his home state. It's Rich Rodriguez. It's a good fit offensively for him, and that's what he looked at. I mean, he had a lot of opportunities. He could have been a version of Chubba Purdy this year and been a really good insurance policy. He had some opportunities to go other places too, but that was the best fit for him. I mean, Richard Torres, we had no body of work on him, and we kind of know the deal with Casey Thompson. I mean, he'd probably be Auburn's starting quarterback right now until Peyton Thorne jumped him and went in the portal and got that opportunity. And once again, Casey was looking for a situation where he was going to be the guy, and that's hard to find right now. If you don't know who your quarterback is on May 31st, that's probably not an ideal place to go. And I think for Casey, that's what he was looking for. And I think Logan, to an extent, was looking for that too. And there's just not very many of those opportunities available on May 31st.
Sean Callahan of Husker Online joins us. Sean, we are on the cusp of June. It is May 31. June, and people talk about the summer being dead. June is not dead. Talk about June at Nebraska, especially as it applies to recruiting.
Well, June is probably the most important month now in a lot of respects in recruiting because of the December signing day. There's a lot of activity that's going to happen with camps, visitors, but mainly the visitors. We've confirmed that On3 and Husker Online that 26, actually now I think it's 27 official visitors. And to put that in perspective, you get 56 plus 6 you can carry over. So roughly you get 62 a year you can use. And almost half of them already are allotted for the next few weeks in June. And an official visit, if you're not really familiar with the difference, these are the visits where Nebraska can pay for the family and the kid to come in, and then they can pay for every part of the trip, whether it's restaurants and hotels and transportation. Where anyone that had been coming in the spring, those all were unofficial, where the kid was responsible and on their own. So these are really important, as you know. And then a lot of schools will start to kind of squeeze kids, tell them like, hey, we only have two receiver spots. We like you, we want you to take one of them, but if you don't, you may not have this spot. So there's a lot of squeezing that's going to go on around the country where kids will jump on these spots. And you'd like to be able to wait until the season. And that's really, really hard to do. Nebraska got some bad news last night with Brandon Baker's step. I don't know if you read this, but originally his plan was to take his final visit to Lincoln in September. Now Nebraska's not even in. He did not mention Nebraska at all at the NIL summit in Nashville. He's taking visits to Georgia and Ohio State. And he said that, he's going to probably have a decision, now sooner rather than later, where I think Nebraska's hope was to get him here for maybe the Michigan game. Well, now Nebraska's not even in the schedule. I'm not saying they were going to get Brandon Baker, but that kind of gives you a sense of even guys that say they want to come in the season, it's really hard to pull that off, to have them be available, because the Georgias, the Ohio States, those programs can really squeeze you to make decisions here in this month of June.
Brandon Baker, of course, is the top-rated offensive lineman in the country from modern day, right? He has had genuine interest in Nebraska to the point where he's made how many unofficials here, Sean?
Two. He's made 2. I mean, he's been to a lot of places, and that caught me a little by surprise. I never thought Nebraska. For the record, I never thought Nebraska was going to necessarily get him, but I thought they were going to at least get him back for an official. And you just never know where that could have went from there. But it has a real, almost like another feel of the Dylan Raiola situation. Dylan Raiola made the March visit, never came back for the spring game. Brandon Baker made a March, April visit, was planning to return. as of right now today, he's not going to take an official visit to Nebraska, and his decision process could be wrapped up here in the summer. So, it should be. So, it's more of a gut punch to where Nebraska is as a program. They can at least get in the discussion with some of these guys.
Yeah.
But when you talk about the NIL era that we're in, and the playoff era, those two things, Nebraska is going to have a hard time until they start winning again.
Well, speaking of trying to avoid the gut punch, Sean, Carter Nelson was in Lincoln over the weekend, and there's been some thoughts he'd be going to Georgia, Notre Dame, other places. Have things gone the right direction with him over the last couple of weeks in terms of potentially going to Nebraska?
I think so. You talk about the number of trips he's made here. Nowhere else is even close. I don't know if he's been to another school twice. Everybody's been in Nebraska over 10 times. To spend time, and he's been there several times with this staff. So Daniel Callahan and him have a good rapport. There's a lot of positives with Carter Nelson and kind of where that's at. I think especially getting Daniel Callahan. I think Daniel Callahan has been big behind the scenes just to kind of develop that relationship. I was with Daniel Saturday at the Warren Academy Quarterback Showcase event, and he said, I'm going to do whatever I can with Carter, with any of these guys. Anytime there's recruits on campus, I'm going to be in Lincoln. And whether it's an official or unofficial, they want me there, I'm going to be there. And that's why it's important to have a quarterback to kind of lead your recruiting class. You need that type of leadership. It's what Dylan Rail was doing for Georgia. He was there at the end of May. He's going to be back in June because Kirby Smart told him, hey, we got key recruits coming in. We need you there to talk to them. And Daniel Callahan's trying to do the same type of thing for Nebraska.
Who are Sean, how many, I don't even know where to go. I'm kind of, that Baker news kind of throws me for a loop. Has losing on a regular basis at Nebraska, this situation Nebraska finds itself in which it hasn't made a bowl game since 2016. The only Power 5 school that hasn't made a bowl game since 2016. Is that catching up with Nebraska more now than ever, perhaps?
It has to be. They're at a point where, it's got to turn. You could have great fans, money for NIL,
facilities, but
there's still one pretty important thing missing, right?
Yeah.
You can't keep losing.
No, can't do that.
Yeah, you can't keep losing.
Well, in terms of positivity, Sean, Daniel Callahan, he becomes the second quarterback in 2 years with Zane Flores last year to be an Elite 11 quarterback. How significant is that for the state of Nebraska?
I think it's the biggest thing with Daniel Callahan in the state of Nebraska with these quarterbacks. It just tells you how much further the development has come with the position. There was a time 10 years ago, 8 years ago, 20 years ago, obviously, when a lot of this started up with the Elite 11, you never would have thought a Nebraska quarterback could be a part of this because they weren't developed. And it's not just throwing a football 40 yards. It's the proper footwork, the proper technique. High school football around here, that wasn't really a part of what they did. Every high school in the state ran a version of the Osborne offense, and Sip and I were growing up. To be a part of the Elite 11, that was a California, Florida, Texas thing. And those quarterbacks, now here, we're starting to see that. These quarterbacks, I thought it really started with quarterbacks here with Noah Vedral. He went out and sought professional training to be a Division I quarterback, and it got him to Central Florida. Then it got him to Nebraska and Rutgers. Then you had Heinrich Harburg, same thing. He went out to Colorado, and there's a guy in Kansas City, did all this training to get the Nebraska opportunity. There's been good ones before, like the Easton Sticks of the world. But Nathan Inderle was drafted by the Bears out of Idaho. He's a North Platte kid. But there just hasn't been kids that have been developed like this as juniors in high school. And Zane Flores and obviously now Daniel Callahan are both developed to that level. I just think that tells you how far this position has come to have kids at this time frame to be developed at that level to be in the Elite 11.
Sean, always good stuff. Thank you for the time, and we will chat with you again next week.
All right, guys. Sorry about that Brandon Baker news. We're getting hammered, by the way, on the Red Sea Scrolls. People are blaming us for some reason.
Oh, no. Oh, as usual.
Our 2 10-minute interviews with Brandon Baker had a big impact on things. But yeah, that was I was shocked when I read the article as well. And he took a picture with hats at the On3 NIL Summit. It was 7 hats, and Nebraska was not in his 7 hats.
Ouch.
Not great. Not great. All right. Thanks, Sean. Appreciate you.
All right, guys. Thanks.
Okay.
Sean Callahan. So people are saying, as you would probably assume, that when Dylan Raiola goes to Georgia, that probably significantly hurt Nebraska's chance with Brandon Baker.
Probably, maybe. But what we're talking about is players that can get Nebraska over the top. It's not going to be just one, but it's players like Brandon Baker. If you look at the class now, I don't know that you would identify any of these guys that are in the class as guys that there's 7 right now in the class of 2024 that get you over the top. I mean, maybe they do, but it's nobody that's readily apparent, like a Dylan Raiola that seems readily apparent. Brandon Baker, the number 1 tackle in the country. Those are kind of guys that there's some evidence that shows they might be that guy. Now, how are you going to get them when you're not winning? See, we're not. You talked about the word rut.
Nebraska's in a bad rut right now. Now, I would spin this one way positively with Brandon Baker. I thought Nebraska's chances were low with him. I mean, obviously, interest is great. Just pull the rug out early before, instead of make his cling to it longer and then pulling it out
into the fall. Yeah.
Right. I mean, we've seen, think about in the past when he had like Foster Sorrell, had Nebraska at the podium with him, and he chose Stanford and had a great career there. That stuff sucks. It sucks to be there to the very end and really not really be there.
Right. So now you're not really there. It's just why Brandon Baker is interesting to me is he came here twice and he was engaged. I interviewed him twice. Sean did too. We had him on video, and he was enamored with Nebraska. But listen, if you go, I mean, you don't want to get myopic in these conversations. If you go to Knoxville, you're probably going to be enamored with what you see, right? If you go to Athens, obviously, Tuscaloosa, obviously, Columbus, obviously, and he can go to all those. If you go to Oregon, Eugene, they're all going to look good to you, right? When you walk in the building, they set it up very nice. They're very nice setups. And by the way, those teams are winning.
If you are going to get a player like that, you better really ante up in NIL and get above everybody
Nebraska
else.
Can do that.
Have to. Well,
Nebraska
they have to
do that. I think NIL at the high school level, it's not as integral as it used to be because the money is going to the transfers. Why? Like Ernest Hausman's a good example.
Sure.
He proved himself in college. He had 54 tackles at Nebraska. That's pretty valuable. And he played really well at Michigan.
He did.
He showed he can play in college. Put your money there.
Yep.
Put your money behind a guy who showed he can play. That's what's happening, Jake. The scary thing is if you have a true freshman who plays well for you, got to watch it because teams are recruiting off other people.
Poached.
Yeah.
Poached.
Yeah.